welcome to another episode of Stamp Your Way. This is Karen, and today I'm going to show you a great way to decorate your candles, either for your own household decor or for gift-giving ideas, basically using your embossing tools and your Stampin' Up! Stamps. There are some other techniques floating around on the internet which use tissue paper. And they basically are embossing on the tissue paper and then wrapping it around the candle and then heat embossing. So basically the tissue paper melts as you're heating the candle. The wax melts and then the tissue paper molds into the candle. And it's a beautiful way to decorate your candles to make them more personalized. However, for myself, for my own household, I don't typically use traditional candles anymore. I don't care for the soot that protrudes into the air, sticks to my walls, and I'm thinking if it's in the walls, then maybe it's also in my lungs. And now that I'm a mom, I have to think about all these safety precautions as well as the fire risk. So what I have adapted to using is battery-operated candles. And these have actually, I first found these online, I think on a TV shopping channel. And since then, their popularity has grown. Many stores have started carrying these candles. You can find some great sets at Costco, whereas they have the more advanced battery-operated candles now have timers. Some even have remote controls. So if you want to place your candles way up on a high shelf, you can do so and then operate them with your remote control. So they're great, and they too are also real wax on the outside. So you could use the tissue paper technique that is out there on the internet. However, myself, I like to change out my decorations for the seasons, for the holidays. I don't want to just keep the same design all the time. And so that's for me. And if you're like me, this is a great technique, because what I had determined is how can I decorate my candles but not be so permanent. I want to be able to put them on, change it out season after season. Because if I were to do, I'd have to keep buying more sets of candles, to do Valentine's Day or Christmas or the Halloween, so on and so forth. I didn't want to have to keep buying more candles, and then there's the storage issue. So how can I decorate the candles that I have and change out those decorations for the season? Well, this is the solution that I came up with. Basically, I'm going to show you today how to create basically some belly bands, if you will, that you can then wrap around your candle, adhere it with the wonderful sticky strip. When the holiday is over, it peels off. The sticky strip peels off. Put this away, this little thin piece of window sheet, put it away in a drawer or your holiday storage tote, and put on the next seasons, maybe St. Patrick's Day, Easter, going forward. You see, this is, I thought, a great way where you can decorate but not be permanent. And so basically what this is Stampin' Up's a piece of the window sheet cut down to size, and I have embossed on the window sheet. And to do that, obviously you're going to need some window sheets. You'll need your candles, and you could use real candles too. However, I would not light them, because if your candle were, left unattended by chance and the wax started to run down, it would ruin the window sheet, could catch it on fire. I don't think it would be as safe. But since these are battery operated, there is no real flame. They have the natural glow. Here, I'll turn mine on, a little glow of a candle. And some of these newer ones, see, they'll actually... and of course I have them by my sunny window, so it's harder to see. But in the evening you can see the nice warm glow. But no flame, so it's not going to, you don't have to worry about any fire risk. So again, you'll need the window sheet. I used, for this Valentine design, I used a stamp from the stamp set Hearts Aflutter, and I used this nice solid heart stamp. You also need some Versamark ink, some stamping powder, embossing powder. I have the Stamping Emboss in Cherry Cobbler. This is the color I chose to use. Of course, your heat tool, and a seamstress tape measure, because this is great to wrap around the candle to get accurate measurements, as well as your Stampin' Up! Paper trimmer. So that way you can trim your window sheets. So I believe that's everything you're going to need. Let's get started. The first thing you're going to need to determine is how big you need to cut your window sheet. So you're going to need to measure your candle. And this is where the seamstress measuring tape comes in handy, because unlike a ruler, this one you can wrap all the way around your candle to be able to get an accurate measurement. Now you're going to want to, on the diameter or the width of the candle, you're going to need to measure that and add a 1/2 of an inch for the overlap. So see, I've got my candle, here's my 1/2 inch mark on the one, and this 11-inch line lines right up with that. So that's how long I need to make, or wide I need to make my candle. So 11 inches is going to be one of my measurements. And then I want to also measure from the bottom, and I measured right even from the bottom up until like 1/4 of an inch below my candle. Now my candle's very smooth. If you have a candle that tapers or widens at any point, you're going to need to make a determination as to where you want your belly band to be, so that it's going to lay nice and flat. You don't want to be putting a belly band over a surface of a candle that widens or narrows, because your belly band's never going to lay flat. My candle's nice and flat, so I know I can use this whole, pretty much the whole area of the candle from the bottom up to the top, and I am going to actually bring my belly band down, because it's right at the very edge. See, it's actually kind of rounded, and I think that would look goofy if it was sticking up. So I'm going to go like 1/4 of an inch below the top. And so in other words, my measurement that I need is 3 3/4. So this is how big I need to cut my window sheet. 3 3/4 by 11 inches. And so I have my paper cutter here, and I'm going to go ahead and cut my window sheet. So 3 3/4 this way. And then I know I need also put this up here at the 11 line. So here is my window sheet cut to the measurements that I needed. And as you can see, I've already begun doing some stamping and embossing on one side of the sheet. I highly recommend that you only do like half your sheet at a time. That way you have an area where you can hold on to it when you're heat embossing, because you want to be able to keep your hands away from the heat so you don't get burned. And also you don't want to be touching into the embossing powder before before it's actually heat set, because it'll come off on your fingers and mess up your image. So here I'm going to continue embossing. First, before you actually start to stamp on your window sheet, you're going to want to take a fabric softener dryer sheet and really, and this one's brand new out of the box. This is not a used one. I tried using some that had already been used in the dryer. I didn't have good results. So I think the best way to get rid of the static and oils from the surface of the window sheet is a dryer sheet in this case. The Embossing Buddy is a wonderful tool when you're embossing on paper cardstock, but not on a window sheet, because it's going to leave that powdery film on your window sheet, and then your embossing powder will inadvertently stick to where you don't want it. So you really want to wipe that down very good with the fabric dryer sheet. So now I'm going to begin stamping. And another thing you'll notice is when you stamp on the window sheet, it's very difficult to see where you've stamped. So what I like to do is get my head right down at table level so that I can actually see the reflection or the surface of the window sheet, and that way I can see where I've stamped. Another tip is when you're stamping on a window sheet, it's not unlike cardstock, the window sheet's plastic, so it's slippery. And so you want to be careful when you. This is definitely the time when you are stamping that you want to stamp straight down and straight up. Now I imagine on video here you're probably not able to see the stamped images as I'm working, but trust me, the stamps are there, and I will hold the window sheet up here momentarily so that you can get a better look-see. And like I said, I've got my head right down at my table, so I'm basically looking like a horizon type view here of my window sheet, and that way I can see where I've stamped and where I have not. Okay, I think that's good. Now I'm going to leave this area right here along the edge unstamped because I want to use that as my overlap, and I don't want to have hearts overlapping. I did that on one of mine and wasn't wild about the look, so lesson learned. Now the next time I'm not going to do that. So now I'm going to use the Stamp and Emboss powder. This color is called Cherry Cobbler. And I'm going to pour this on my stamped heart images. Oh, now see, where all my fingerprints, wherever I touched on the, even though I wiped it down very good, all my fingerprints are right here. So this is where it comes it's very handy to have a brush handy so that you can very carefully brush off embossing powder where you do not want it. And I think because window sheets are the plastic, they are staticky just by nature, it makes it a bit more difficult compared to your other embossing projects where you're using the cardstock. This is a little bit more difficult because it's even more staticky. And so as a beginner, I would definitely recommend using a stamped image that is more solid, like this heart that I'm using today, because a very detailed heart image, or any image for that matter, would probably be a lot more difficult to get a nice crisp image if it had a lot of detail. Whereas this just solid stamp, this is almost elementary. I mean, it's very simple. So like I said, I'm just brushing away all of this embossing powder where I don't want it. And as you can see in some of my heart images, there is it's kind of empty there. It's not completely solid, but don't worry about that. I have a trick too for fixing that because, like I said, it's very difficult to. And so you're going to want to get rid of as much as that embossing powder. And if there's teeny little crumbs, that's okay, because as you'll be able to see, it still looks fine when you wrap this window sheet belly band, if you will, around the candle. So now I've got all my embossing powder back in the jar. And okay, so now I'm going to begin heat embossing this. And I recommend holding this up in the air. I think it works best. If I can hold this on an angle so that you can see when it turns. And I am using high heat. A moment ago I had it on low by accident. Okay, so hopefully you can see this. It's starting to turn. It's melting, and then you just see it. Just move your embossing gun, your heat tool, right along as it melts. There we go. See? Okay. Now for these areas in here where it didn't quite fill in my hearts, I'm just going to use actually a Versa marker. There's the Versa Mark pad, and then there's also this, they make it in a marker form. There's two ends. That's the brush tip. I want the pen end. This one looks like the pen. And then I'll just fill in, just color inside, basically, these little areas where I didn't quite, and this one actually covered in pretty good. I've had some other hearts when I did the other side that a big section was missing. And so I just colored this in with the Versamarker. And then, once again, just add some more embossing powder to those areas. And then heat it up once again. Hopefully at this angle you can see the extra powder, because it's a different color. It'll look darker. Until it heats up, and then it melts, and then it just blends in right in with the rest of the other embossing powder that's already on the heart. Okay, now with my belly band, my embossed belly band finished, now we just need to basically wrap it around the candle. Now I could wrap it around like this, where my embossed hearts are on top, and you see the bright red, the dark rich red color of the cherry cobbler. Or, what I actually really like, this is a happy accident, what I discovered is that when you flip it over, the hearts are like a lighter version of the cherry cobbler. So it kind of looks like more like a mauve-y pink color. And so see, then you have this, you basically have two looks in one. So I'm actually going to, I decided I'm going to actually go with the lighter version. And so in order to do that, you just wrap it around. And now I already have some sticky strip. And you're going to want to put the sticky strip on so that when you wrap it, it's not going to be on, you don't want any sticky strip on your embossed hearts, because you want to be able to reuse these belly bands. And when you when you remove them, you can actually, which is really cool, the sticky strip will pull apart. You can just take it off, and then you can actually peel off the sticky strip. So again, these makes your embossed window sheets, your belly bands, completely reusable. But you don't want to put the sticky strip on any embossed heart, either directly, like you don't either want to directly tape on the embossed heart, or when you wrap it around and you overlap, you don't want sticky strip touching on the overlap either. So make sure that however you do it, that's why I said it's better to leave an area where you don't have any hearts. And then when I wrap, see my sticky strip, because I'm going to do this, the wrong side, I guess you can call it, on the outside. I have my sticky strip on here. It's on the back, or actually it would be the front of the embossed sheets, but it's going to be my back because it's the way I decided to wrap it. And this is going to go right on top. Now it looks like it would be on these hearts, but remember my hearts are on the inside. So this is just smooth plastic on the outside. And so then you just stick that down. And that would be, so I'll go ahead and do that. Because it's a lot easier when I held it up so I could show you on camera. But it's a lot easier to wrap it when it's on the flat on the table, because I like to keep the edge of the lower edge of my belly band right flush with the bottom of the candle. And then I just press the sticky strip up, and voila. Cute seasonal or holiday decoration. Totally removable, replaceable for each. Oops, no, actually I didn't do that quite tight enough, but I can fix that. Totally reusable for, I take this off and I can change out and make another one for a different holiday. And I'm not damaging my candles. My candles are completely reusable and pretty cool. So hopefully you like this craft tip idea today. All the supplies and shopping list, so forth, will be listed on my blog. That's stampyourway.blogspot.com. And until next time, bye!